After a year working abroad, my return was meant to coincide perfectly with my 5th wedding anniversary with Chloe. It was a day for celebration. Instead, Chloe and the ghost of her first love, Julian, gave me a welcome home gift. It was an ultrasound report. Chloe's name was printed clearly at the top, along with the information that the fetus she carried was a full 36 weeks along. She gripped my hand, her eyes searching mine for a reaction I refused to give her. "Leo," she said, her voice a little too bright. "I know how much you've always wanted a child, but with your condition." I had to ask Julian for help. Julian, smug and self-satisfied, clapped me on the shoulder with a false camaraderie that made my skin crawl. "Leo, we're old friends. Don't even think about thanking me." He grinned. "The baby will call you Dad, of course. I'll just be Uncle Julian. Think of it as me doing a good deed, you know?" I pulled my hand back and stepped away, my gaze fixed on the swell of Chloe's stomach. My face was a mask of calm. "All right," I said, my voice unnervingly steady. "I love the anniversary gift. Thank you both. It's very thoughtful." The day the child was born, its biological father went insane. After Julian left that evening, I sat on the living room sofa, lost in a silent, hollow space. Chloe, misinterpreting my stillness as mere sadness, moved around the apartment as if nothing were wrong. "Don't worry," she said airily, arranging some flowers in a vase. "Once the baby is born, I'll cut things off with Julian. He won't affect our relationship." A wave of disbelief washed over me. The sheer, shameless audacity of her words was breathtaking. I had been gone for a year, working to provide for us, only to return to a pregnant wife carrying another man's child. And here she was, talking about our relationship. This was the woman I had been married to for 5 years. Seeing my silence, her tone took on a mocking edge. "Aren't you happy? You should try to look on the bright side. If it weren't for Julian, you might never have become a father. I mean, considering your little problem." She didn't finish the sentence. Her eyes drifted down to my crotch, her expression a perfect portrait of contempt. My face remained a placid lake, betraying nothing. This unnerved her. She watched me, a frown creasing her brow, clearly wondering why I wasn't exploding. In the past, whenever I'd found out about her dalliances with other men, our fights were legendary. One time, we had nearly demolished the entire apartment in a fit of rage and tears. She knew, or thought she knew, that no matter how far she pushed, I would never leave. She believed I loved her too much. That belief was the root of her escalating cruelty. "We've been married for 5 years with no children," she said, her voice turning sharp and accusatory. "Your parents aren't around to pressure you, but mine are still waiting for a grandchild. If you ask me, it's all your fault. That thing between your legs just fires blanks. So don't you get any funny ideas. You should be respectful of Julian. After all, he's the one who gave us this gift." I looked her straight in the eye and gave a slight, deliberate nod. "Okay, I understand." The truth was, I wasn't infertile. I had always been careful with her, deliberately so. I loved her so much that I didn't want her to resent the changes that pregnancy would bring to her body, a body she cherished. I feared the anxiety it would cause her. I never imagined my consideration would be twisted into this grotesque betrayal. I tried to tell her the truth once, but she hadn't believed me. "What man doesn't want to pass on his family name?" she had scoffed. "I don't believe you're that selfless." The questions were relentless until one day, I had jokingly said I was infertile just to make her stop. She took it as gospel. Now, she watched me with a look of smug victory, believing my quiet acquiescence was just another instance of her taming me, of breaking my will. My mind drifted back a year, to the days before I left. She and Julian were inseparable, staying out all night. Whispers followed me at work, snide comments about the horns my wife was growing for me. My mother-in-law called me useless, declaring that marrying her daughter to me was the greatest mistake of her life. My father-in-law had pointed a trembling finger at my face, screaming at me to get my wife and bring her home. I tried. I found her with Julian, but the look she gave me was filled with nothing but disdain. When I tried to take her hand, she slapped me, hard, right in front of him, grinding my dignity as a man into the dust. I was so broken that I grabbed a fruit knife from a nearby table and pressed it to my own neck until a line of blood trickled down the blade. Only then, reluctantly, did she come home. The look in her eyes that day was the same as it was now, full of triumphant cruelty. "Leo," she had said then, standing over me with her arms crossed, "I never should have married you. My eyes were red with unshed tears. For the first time, I asked, "Should we get a divorce?" A playful, manipulative smile touched her lips. "No. Why would I? It's not easy to find an honest man like you to take care of everything." A sharp voice pulled me from the memory. "You should move out for a while," Chloe said. I thought I had misheard her. This was my house. I paid the mortgage. What? Her voice rose, sharp and impatient. I said, "You should move out for a while. The due date is soon. Julian has been taken care of. Me while you were gone. He's much better at it than you are. You move out, so he can move in. It'll be inconvenient with you here." The word struck me like a physical blow. In the end, I agreed. I, who had just returned from a year of hard work, was kicked out of my own home before the warmth had even settled in my chair. I found a sterile hotel room and checked in. Chloe and I were high school classmates. She was the school's golden girl, top of her class, president of the student council, and the undisputed campus beauty. I was a quiet, poor kid from an orphanage, my education funded by charity. My world was books and the constant, low hum of insecurity. Julian was the resident rich kid, the classic bad boy. His uncle was rumored to be incredibly wealthy, and Julian acted the part, swaggering through the halls with his posse, a menace to his teachers and a magnet for trouble. And of course, at that age, the school goddess always falls for the bad boy. They were the golden couple. Their high school romance was the stuff of legends, a long, sun-drenched teen movie where they were the stars. But the movie had to end. Julian failed his college entrance exams, not even qualifying for a vocational school. His powerful uncle stepped in and sent him abroad to study. Their picture-perfect story was left behind in the schoolyard. Chloe and I, improbably, ended up at the same top-tier university. She spent most of freshman year in a haze of heartbreak, still pining for Julian. She became a regular at a grimy bar across from campus, drinking herself into oblivion. One night, passing by, I saw her being dragged out by two men with ill intentions. I don't know what came over me. The normally timid, weak-willed Leo found a surge of courage. The men cursed at me, threatening to teach me a lesson. But for Chloe, who was dead weight in their arms, I didn't run. I grabbed a beer bottle and fought. Maybe it was the alcohol that made them clumsy, but I won. I was a wreck, with a gash on my head bleeding profusely, but I won. The sight of my blood seemed to sober Chloe up. She called an ambulance and stayed by my side in the hospital, day and night. After that, she slowly began to heal. She became my girlfriend. After graduation, I gave up a better-paying job in a major financial hub to stay in our city with her. As if by a stroke of fate, I, the poor boy, landed a massive project right out of college. I took out loans, bought a house and a car, and we walked down the aisle. Life was hard, the mortgage was crushing, and work was exhausting. But the thought of her gave me strength. There were sweet times then. I felt her love, but it all started to curdle when Julian returned from overseas. Without warning, he crashed back into our lives. Chloe grew distant, her attention and affection drifting back to him. When she was drunk, she would whisper his name, calling him the one that got away, the love of her life. Before my business trip, it had gotten so bad they were holding hands in public. When I confronted them, they just looked at me with bored, dismissive eyes. And now I was back. They had a child, and I was the one cast out, while he took my place in my bed, in my home. There was no warmth in my homecoming. I felt more alone now than I had during the entire year abroad. The purpose of my marriage, the meaning of my relentless hard work, it all evaporated, leaving a bitter taste. I was a ghost in my own life. I hadn't received a single call from her since being kicked out. I knew, in the cold, rational part of my brain, that the love was gone. The only reason I hadn't filed for divorce was a foolish attachment to the memory of what we once had. One night, from the rooftop of my hotel, I looked out over the sprawling, glittering city. It had changed so much over the years, and so had the people in it. This city was a museum of our past, every landmark a photograph in my mind. Eventually, staring into the abyss, a decision crystallized. I would divorce her, but she was pregnant. I would wait until the child was born. Then, it would be over. A few weeks later, I was working late, exhausting myself to keep the thoughts at bay, when my phone rang. It was Chloe. "Leo, I'm at my due date. The doctor says the baby will be here any day now. I'm sending you the hospital address. Can you come take care of me?" "Oh," I said flatly. "Isn't Julian there? It would be inconvenient if I came." Her voice flared with anger. "What's with that attitude? I'm your wife. It's your duty to take care of me. What's so inconvenient about it?" I was speechless. She had thrown me out, said the cruelest things imaginable, and now expected me to come running with a single phone call. The old Leo would have, wagging his tail like a pathetic dog. But that Leo was dead. Sensing my hesitation, her voice softened. Julian's uncle is back in the country tonight. He has to go meet him, so he can't be at the hospital. I can't be here alone, so I had to call you. Are you coming or not? I'm busy, I said, my voice cold. I'm working overtime at the office. I can't leave. What is your problem? She exploded. I'm asking you nicely and you can't understand plain English? So what if you're busy? Take a few days off. I'm your wife, and I'm about to give birth. Why is it so difficult for you to come to the hospital? The dam of my carefully controlled anger finally broke. Years of repressed fury erupted. You still remember you're my wife. I roared into the phone. You're about to give birth to another man's child, and you have the nerve to ask me to take care of you? Have you no shame? I've made up my mind. As soon as you can walk, we're getting a divorce. A torrent of shrewish screaming erupted from the other end. I pulled the phone away from my ear and hung up. It rang again almost immediately. I assumed it was Chloe and was about to decline, but I glanced at the screen. A strange number. I answered cautiously. A smug, mocking voice came through the line. Leo, what's this? Growing a backbone. You actually dared to yell at your wife. It was Julian. She's your wife now, I sneered. A gift from me to you. She's carrying your child. The three of you can live happily ever after. Once she's recovered, we'll meet at the courthouse. Suddenly, Chloe's voice was on the line. Well, Leo, a year abroad taught you how to yell at me, did it? I told you to be respectful of Julian. He's the father of the child in my belly. Have you no sense of gratitude? I've already made myself clear, I said, cutting straight to the point. I want a divorce. Julian came back on. Leo, be mature about this. Don't throw a tantrum. You and Chloe have been married for 5 years. You can't just throw that away. You weren't even supposed to come to the hospital today, but something came up for me. That's why we thought of you. Now, get over here, and Chloe and I will pretend this little outburst never happened. I laughed, a harsh, humorless sound. The two of them, tag-teaming me with their gaslighting and manipulation. Even the patience of a saint would have its limits. Stop ordering me around, I said, my voice dangerously low. And stop harassing me. I've said it clearly enough for anyone to understand. I am divorcing Chloe. We are finished. I will not be coming to the hospital. Julian's voice turned venomous. Leo, how can you be so petty? You need to understand something. It was your fault you couldn't give her a son. I was helping you. That's why Chloe is pregnant. And now that the baby is coming, you're just going to wash your hands of it. In a few short sentences, he had painted his own shamelessness as an act of charity. You are truly unbelievable, I responded, my voice like ice. Don't dress up your depravity in a hero's costume. If you were any kind of decent man, you would never have done something so disgusting. You are in no position to judge me. We're done here. Get lost, and don't ever bother me again. Hearing me insult Julian, Chloe shrieked. Leo, you can say whatever you want about our problems, but you leave Julian out of this. I told him to do it. It was all me. Listening to her defend him with such ferocity, my already dead heart grew a few degrees colder. I said nothing more. I just hung up the phone and blocked both of their numbers. I thought that would be the end of it. But 2 days later, on the day Chloe gave birth, her parents showed up at my hotel and dragged me to the hospital. They hurled abuse at me, positioning themselves on the moral high ground. Your wife is giving birth, and you, the husband, don't even care? You're worse than an animal. I refused to yield, until her mother threatened to kill herself right there in the lobby if I didn't go. While I hesitated, her father grabbed my arm and hauled me into their car. When we arrived, Chloe had already delivered the baby. A healthy boy. Mother and son were fine. My wife, in the eyes of the law, had given birth to a son for the ghost of her first love. And at that moment, my counterattack began. When I entered the hospital room, Julian was there. But my eyes were drawn to another person in the room, an older man with a full head of silver hair, his back to me. The familiar set of his shoulders, the posture. It was uncannily like a benefactor I had met during my year abroad. Chloe's face contorted with rage when she saw me. I was amazed she had the energy to yell just hours after giving birth. What are you doing here? Get out. The child will never call you father, so you can just forget it. At the sound of her crude language, the old man turned, his brow furrowed in disapproval. Our eyes met. The furrows on his forehead smoothed out, and his deep, magnetic voice was tinged with excitement. Leo. My jaw dropped. Godfather. Our exchange left everyone else in the room completely bewildered. This man was the benefactor I had met abroad. One day, on a street in San Francisco, he had collapsed from a cerebral hemorrhage. A crowd gathered, but no one helped. I was on my way to a crucial client meeting, but when I saw he was a fellow countryman in distress, I risked the deal and rushed him to the hospital. After he recovered, I learned he was a tremendously successful entrepreneur with a vast business empire. He was eternally grateful, treating me like the son he never had. Being fellow expatriates in a foreign land, we formed a close bond. He had no children, and I was an orphan. He officially adopted me as his godson. After a moment of stunned silence, I began to explain. And as I spoke, I realized the unbelievable truth. My godfather was none other than Julian's rich, powerful uncle. When I finished, the atmosphere in the room was electric. Every face wore a different expression of shock. My godfather slammed his hand on a nearby table, the sound cracking like a gunshot. He glared at Julian. How do you explain this? You told me this woman was your wife. That this child was yours, he thundered. I'm gone for a few years, and you think you can play me for a fool? Julian stammered, unable to form a single coherent sentence. Desperate, he pointed a shaking finger at me. What nonsense are you spouting? Chloe is my wife. What are you even doing here? The room descended into chaos. Chloe's mother stepped forward. What are you talking about? We may not be thrilled with Leo, but he is our son-in-law. You keep saying Chloe is your wife. Say it again, and I'll tear your mouth out. Julian's face turned ashen. He opened his mouth, then closed it. Chloe's father turned to his daughter. Is what Leo said true? Is the baby in your arms not his? Chloe was completely stunned. It had clearly never occurred to her that her doormat of a husband would ever dare to reveal the truth. In 5 years of marriage, I had never once fought back in a way that mattered. Seeing the look on her face, her father knew. He gritted his teeth and slapped her across the face. Chloe cried out, but no one moved to comfort her. Her mother, full of bitter regret, chimed in. Hit her. Hit this shameless creature. We may not like Leo, but you married him. How could you cheat on him? And to have another man's child? If this gets out, where will your father and I show our faces? She started to sob. Last July, you told us you were going abroad to visit Leo. You came back pregnant, and we thought it was Leo's baby. But I vaguely recalled seeing Julian's social media posts from last year. A trip abroad. He hadn't gone alone. I had to hand it to them. Chloe's family had always looked down on me, but when it came to a fundamental matter of right and wrong, they still had principles. We're leaving, her father announced, pulling his weeping wife towards the door. From now on, we don't have a daughter. We never raised her. To do something so immoral. In ancient times, a woman like this would be drowned in a pig cage. She has utterly shamed our family. After they left, all the fight went out of Chloe. She lay silently in bed, tears streaming down her face. My godfather cleared his throat. Now it's just the four of us. Julian, explain yourself. Beads of sweat trickled down Julian's face. Uncle, he began, his voice weak, Chloe and Leo. They had no love left. The person she has always loved is me. If you hadn't sent me abroad all those years ago, I would have been the one to marry her, not Leo. She told me she regretted marrying him. So you're blaming me for taking you away? My godfather asked, his voice dangerously quiet. No, Uncle, I wouldn't dare, Julian panicked. He gritted his teeth and looked at me. Uncle, did you know? Leo is infertile. He begged me to help him have a child. I let out a cold laugh and calmly explained the truth about my feigned infertility, about my reasons. Chloe, hearing this, shrieked at me. Impossible. After all these years, I know you're infertile. Otherwise, why did I never get pregnant after all the times we were together without protection? I didn't even look at her. I told you. I always control myself. If you doubt the truth of it, I can go get tested right now. My godfather stood up and clapped his hands 3 times. Excellent. 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 He turned back to Julian. I came back this time mainly to see your child. As you know, I have no children of my own, and your parents passed away young. I've always treated you like my own son. He paused. But I had another reason for returning. Do you know what it is? A look of relief washed over Julian's face. He thought his uncle was changing the subject, giving him an out. No, Uncle. I don't. I'm retiring, my godfather said, rubbing his temples. My business overseas is substantial. I'm not ready to let it go. So, the second reason was to choose a successor. That position was always meant for you. But now, I've changed my mind. I've found a more suitable candidate. Julian's eyes widened. Uncle, You must be confused. It's our family's company. It should be me. How can you give it to someone else? My godfather's voice rose. Oh, the candidate is right in front of you. He looked at me. Leo, not only am I giving him the position of successor, he continued, his voice ringing with finality, but my will is being amended to leave him all of my assets. The statement hung in the air. Even I was staring at him in disbelief, to say nothing of his own nephew. Julian's face flushed a deep, mottled red. Uncle, you can't do this. I am a member of the Pang family. I'll concede the successor position. I don't want it, but your assets. My assets, my godfather interrupted sharply, were earned by me, cent by cent. I will give them to whomever I please. You have no say in the matter. Losing all control, Julian screamed. You've gone senile. We had an agreement. You said if I produced an heir for the Pang family, you would give me half your assets now and the rest when you retired. Why are you going? Back on your word, you old man. He was completely unhinged now. I'm your nephew. You're the one who's infertile, with no children of your own. How can you give everything to an outsider? How can you face our ancestors? Smack. My godfather struck him across the face. You have the gall to mention the child? To mention our ancestors? You seduce another man's wife, destroy another man's family, and swagger around like a tyrant. You have brought nothing but shame to our ancestors. You are worse than a pig. Just then, a nurse brought the swaddled baby back into the room. Sensing the toxic atmosphere, she placed the infant beside Chloe, mumbled a few quick instructions, and fled. Uncle, let me explain, Chloe pleaded. No matter what, this child is your flesh and blood. Do not call me uncle. You are not worthy, he roared. What is there to explain? The facts are right here. Yes, this is my family's flesh and blood. But it's a bastard child, born from my nephew and another man's wife. He spat on the floor. Seeing that all was lost, Julian dropped to his knees. Uncle, it was a moment of madness. It was all Chloe. After Leo went abroad, she said she was lonely and asked me to come over. When she got pregnant, I told her to get rid of it, but she insisted on keeping the child. I was weak. She's a slut. Uncle, for my parents' sake, please, forgive me this one time. From this moment on, I want nothing to do with this slut or the child in her arms. I'll do whatever you want, just forgive me. In his final moments of desperation, he had abandoned even the last shred of a man's dignity, throwing Chloe and his own son under the bus. Chloe, who had been quietly weeping while holding her baby, began to wail. Her parents had disowned her, and now, the man she had sacrificed everything for, the ghost of her first love, had cast her aside like garbage. My godfather looked at his nephew with utter disappointment. How did the Pang family produce such a worthless creature? He said, his voice heavy with sorrow. He turned to me. Leo is my godson. The child in his wife's arms is of my bloodline. Therefore, my company will go to Leo. My assets will be split between him and the child. Julian, you will not get a single cent. He gestured to me. Leo, let's go. Julian's eyes rolled back in his head, and he collapsed onto the floor. When he woke up again, unable to face his new reality, his mind had shattered. At the airport, I carried my godfather's suitcase. Godfather, why don't you stay a few more days? We can leave together after my divorce is finalized. He patted my shoulder. I'd like to, son, but there are urgent projects waiting for my decision. I'll go back and pave the way for you. It will make your transition smoother. He saw the hesitation on my face. Don't worry. You don't think you're ready to be a chairman, but you are. I'm still young enough to guide you. Be bold. I've got your back. He smiled, a kind, fatherly expression. This isn't some lottery prize, you know. I have been considering you as my successor for a long time. It wasn't just because of this mess. Julian was spoiled. He lacks your work ethic and integrity. He would have run the business into the ground. This is a reward. You earned yourself. If you had been a bystander that day on the street, like everyone else, I would be dead, and you wouldn't have this opportunity. Fate brought us together. I've always seen you as my own son. Tears welled in my eyes, and I hugged him tightly. Godfather, thank you. I never had a father, but with you, I've truly felt a father's love. Julian was institutionalized. Before he left, my godfather made arrangements at a private mental health facility, ensuring he would be well cared for the rest of his life. It was, he said, the last thing he could do for him. It was a better outcome than letting him continue to destroy people's lives. A month later, in front of the Civil Affairs Bureau, Chloe clutched my hand. Leo, how can you be so cruel? Are you really going to divorce me? Now that you're a rich man, You're just going to throw me away? I looked at her calmly. Keep going. Say everything you want to say. When you're finished, we'll go inside and sign the papers. All her former arrogance was gone. In front of the courthouse, she knelt on the ground, begging, "Why do we have to do this? We were so in love when we got married. Was it because of Julian? We were just friends. And the pregnancy. I was just so desperate to give you a child. How can you abandon me and our son? How will we live? Don't you dare mention the child to me," I said, stepping away from her. Yes, we were in love at the beginning. But what happened after Julian came back? How many times did the two of you flaunt your affair in my face? And when I got upset, you ganged up on me? Just friends don't hold hands in public. Just friends don't end up in bed together with a child as the result. She clung to my leg, pleading for forgiveness. I crouched down and looked her in the eye. "You will never know how much I loved you," I said, my voice sincere but devoid of passion. "Even when I came home and found you pregnant with his child, I thought that if you just apologized, if you just cut him out of your life for good, I would forgive you. People make mistakes. Even a mistake that huge, I was willing to give you one more chance. But you didn't. You brought him into our home and threw me out. Do you have any idea what that felt like, alone in that hotel room?" My heart died that night. It was as if all the strength drained from her body. She sat on the pavement and wept. After we emerged with our divorce certificates, I told her to be a good mother. I would provide a substantial monthly allowance, and when the child came of age, he would inherit his half of the assets, as per my godfather's wishes. Holding the divorce certificate, I felt a profound sense of release. I was free. At 29, I was no longer young, but life wasn't just about love. This experience had forged me into someone stronger, more mature. I didn't regret the relationship. It started beautifully, and for a while, I, an orphan, had known what it felt like to be loved. As I was about to enter the security line at the airport for my flight abroad, a familiar voice called my name. It was Chloe, a suitcase in her hand. "Thank God, I made it," she panted, rushing up to me. "You knew I was flying today?" I asked. "Your booking account is still on my phone. Why didn't you tell me you were leaving?" "There was no need," I said flatly. "What are you doing here?" "I'm coming with you, of course," she said, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. "You'll be all alone out there. You need a woman to take care of you." I almost laughed. A year ago, I had begged her to come with me, hoping it would help her forget Julian. She had refused, saying she couldn't leave him. Now, I no longer needed her. "Have you not caused enough trouble?" I said, my brow furrowed. "We are divorced." "What about the baby?" "My parents are watching him," she said. "They'll take good care of their grandson." Her expression turned pleading. "Leo, I was wrong. I truly regret divorcing you. Without you, I realized you're the most important person in my life. Please, I'm sorry for everything I did to hurt you. Go home and take care of your son," I said calmly. "The support payments are more than enough. I don't need your apology. We are divorced. All I ask is that you stop disturbing my life." Tears streamed down her face. "Leo, please forgive me. I love you. I can't live without you." I looked at her, my eyes cold and clear. "Stop. The only reason you're here is because Julian is gone and can no longer give you what you want. You loved him. You were willing to cheat and have his child for him. When you say you love me, you mean you love the way I took care of you, the way I always gave in. Or maybe you just love my new status. That's all. I know you too well." I leaned in closer. "Listen carefully. We are divorced. We will never, ever be together again." Her pleading vanished, replaced by a familiar rage. "Enough, Leo. I've humbled myself enough for you. Who are you putting on this show for?" Seeing her like that, I smiled. I knew I had made the right choice. Divorcing her was the best decision of my life. I glanced at my watch, turned my back on her weeping and shouting, and walked toward my gate without a second thought. Her cries no longer caused a single ripple in the calm waters of my heart. A year later, I was no longer a godson, but a son. I had started from the bottom at my father's company, and now he was looking over a report I had prepared, a proud smile on his face. "Good boy," he said. "In just 1 year, you've mastered the business. Our revenue hasn't just stabilized since you took the reins, it's increased significantly. I truly chose the right person." He slid a document across the desk. It was a letter of appointment, naming me the new chairman. "Dad," I said, surprised. "You're still strong. It's too soon. I want you to guide me for a few more years." He shook his head. "I have nothing left to teach you. You're far more brilliant than this old man. I'm getting old, my legs are getting worse. The company is safe in your hands." He beamed. "From now on, You are my son. My eyes reddened. Dad? I choked out. He clapped my shoulder, his laugh booming through the office. Haha, I have a son. Let's go. We'll go out and celebrate a bright future for my boy. I stood and walked to his side. Let me help you, Dad, I said, offering my arm. You have to stay healthy. You can't just cheer me on. You have to be there to witness it all.